Hey guys, it's Matty J here. I just wanted to record this video because I saw this article today. It was just so unbelievably idiotic. Um, and more than that, it's sort of a good microcosm of a lot of the issues we see currently in, and broader American society, its political discourse, etc. The mainstream media, which is basically a massive firewall when it comes to certain information. And then, I mean, to use their own terminology, it's a friggin' disinformation campaign. In this article that really just set me off today, guys, was I saw this article browsing on my web browser from the Daily Beast. So, you already know what that means. It said something to the effect of like Sonny Houston, who, I've never even heard of this friggin' person. Sonny Houston owns Bari Weiss, who I have heard of, and former writer for the New York Times. Won't get into that here, but on court packing. So, I clicked because I have to see what crap they're feeding the masses these days. And the whole article is just, it's such a friggin' sham. They start off with some apparently praising the analysis of this Sonny character who wrote that, or she said rather, that as we all know, this is literally friggin' verbatim, like, as we all know, the Republicans have been packing the court for decades, so a prospective Biden administration has to come in and unpack the court. Of course, this is all in regard to the confirmation of Amy Coney Barrett. So, immediately essentially what they say in their supposed analysis of the situation, and the discussion was just as enlightened as you'd think. If there was one person, because I ended up having to watch, the article was literally so retarded that I then subjected myself to the video. And I don't know if that was because I had to really witness it to make sure that this is actually what transpired, or whether it was the damage that was inflicted on my brain was so severe that I literally had no choice but to watch the video, like it's some sort of drug addict, like it freaking set off shit in my brain. I have no idea, but anyway, I ended up watching the video. Would not recommend. And the first person starts out, I have no idea who this lady, some blonde lady, goes on about how she's sad because, like, Susan Collins was the only Republican. She thought the whole process was rushed. It's like, well, do any of these people have any idea how long confirmations generally go? Or, like, do they just embrace the McConnell rule because that was, they thought that was a good idea, that here we have a counter-majoritarian institution. And from time to time in election years, it would be good to have the people weigh in by being able to elect the president who would then appoint the justice, so we should keep the seat open. No, of course, there's no actual analysis. She's just like, oh, I feel sad, and I can't believe it's Susan Collins, but I feel kind of sad because she's the only one who voted no. It's like, all right, are you kidding me? Give me a break. But anyway, so she eats up like 5 minutes of the clock, and then we get on to Sonny. So our friend Sonny, she comes out, friggin' guns blazing, saying that, as we all know, Republicans have been back in the courts for decades. Amy Coney Barrett's nomination essentially means that Joe Biden now has to unpack the court and rebalance it because it doesn't represent the majority of Americans. And it will change the way Amy Coney Barrett will change the way the court looks. But, it's the classic superficial analyses that they give for every single thing. It's all about how something looks. And, it obviously is influenced, I think subconsciously, by the identity politics paradigm through which these people view the world. And everything is a matter of appearance. They have no notion of substance. There's no notion of, legal, judicial philosophy and, how people decide things. It's like, no. It's either going to be, are they going to be my horse? Are they going to back my policies and programs of what I like? And, is it going to be LGBT friendly court? And except eventually, under a Biden administration, some new anti-racism legislation. Is that going to flow with their interpretation of the 14th Amendment? Not that they actually know what the 14th Amendment says, or that has any bearing on whether or not some friggin' crazy Ibram X. Kendi stuff could possibly be adopted. But anyway, I digress. So, the analysis is unbelievably threadbare, let's put it that way. And so Bari Weiss then comes on, and she actually has a brain in her head, and she's like, hey, does Sonny even know what packing the court actually means? Because packing the court means adding justices, which, if you had even a passing familiarity, like if you'd been through sixth grade, you had some understanding, at least a nodding understanding, that packing the court meant adding extra justices. And now this brilliant legal mind, Sonny Houston, has redefined packing the court to mean adding people you don't like. And Barry points this out, and it was a good point. It was the only legitimate point made on the whole 15-minute segment. And so then, and guys, I apologize for giving you the blow-by-blow here. I know that this is going to cost some brain cells, but we're going to try to make up for it in the end, all right? So then Whoopi tries to intervene, and she's like, no, what I think Sonny actually meant was that the Republicans have been packing the lower courts, like the federal lower court. It's like, you know, as a point of fact, that's not even true, but be that as it may, Sonny, the genius, ends up digging a deeper hole. She's like, no, I quite intentionally meant that the Republicans had packed the court. And the reason why I said this is because a good friend of mine wrote in Newsweek, the esteemed publication Newsweek, they wrote that, and he's a legal scholar, a good friend of mine, James Rogers, or whoever, wrote that the Republicans have been packing the court for decades. And literally, that's the extent of the analysis. It's like total argument from authority. Just a preposterous claim with literally no evidence other than James, whatever his face is, wrote this article in Newsweek. And this apparently, according to the Daily Beast, proved that he owned it. And that they had to now rebalance the court. This is total justification for rebalancing the court and making it reflect the values of America. Of course, she has no comprehension of like jurisprudence or like how cases would be decided. It's just like the implicit assumption is that like cases should be decided according to like modern American values and some sort of broad representation of the entire population, which like the presupposition there is like, well, that Amy Coney Barrett or the conservative majority on the court doesn't represent American values, which it's not as if there's any evidentiary offering to that effect. It's just bare bald assertion that it doesn't. So this is totally absurd, and of course, in the David Beast's mind, that's a complete justification for overhauling the third branch of American government. Because, like, if you go back, and Barry kind of alluded to this, like, the last time court packing, like actual court packing, not what this Todd Sonny thinks of court packing, but real court packing, which, as Barry points out, is adding justices, was even attempted in modern American history, was 1937 with Franklin Roosevelt. And what were the circumstances there? It wasn't adding a new justice. It wasn't friggin' President Trump appointed a justice to replace RBG in her dying wish. Oh my God, she really wanted to be her replacement to be appointed by the next president. Oh, RBG did. Oh, I loved RBG. She should get to decide, right? No, read the friggin' Constitution. And everyone's butthurt over Merrick Garland. It's like, dude, the Senate, according to the Constitution, their role is to advise the president and consent. And if you don't get their consent, then too bad. Your nomination doesn't go through. That's how it works. I mean, give me a break. But anyway, yeah, so literally, the last time this was even attempted, it was literally a revolution in American government. It was the New Deal. That's why Roosevelt was trying to pack the court, not because ACB got nominated. He hates ACB. No, it was literally he was trying to overhaul all of America. And there you actually had a high-level discussion. I mean, you had literally a whole change in legal philosophy. Like, Felix Frankfurter ends up digging up the obscure, fair theory of judicial restraint. You got, future Justice Robert Jackson writing a whole book on essentially judicial supremacy and trying to undermine the the notion that the court should serve as the final arbiter in constitutional dispute. And at least there, you had, what could be widely be considered the third revolution in American government, a total overhaul of the essentially the contract between the government and the people. So there was actually a reason to, and even in that circumstance, it got shut down as too wild. Nowadays, friggin' ACB gets on the court, and all of a sudden, oh no, Joe Biden's got to pack the court because otherwise it doesn't look the way that it should. I mean, give me a friggin' break. This is what passes for analysis, and this is what's infecting the minds of, let's be honest, guys, millions of American women who are listening to this crap. And dude, it'd be one thing if this was like Cardi B getting up there, you know what I mean? 50-year-old Cardi B who just doesn't know any better because she's a Todd. But apparently, this Sunny lady, because I couldn't believe it. I was like, dude, if you went to 8th grade in America, you should know what packing the court means. Like, you should be vaguely familiar with the idea that, like, packing it must mean, like, putting more people on the bench. You know what I mean? Like, but no, this lady went to friggin' law. She went to Notre Dame Law School. The same law school as Barrett, all right? It's not a bad law school, guys. She went to Notre Dame Law School. She, like, clerked for a federal judge. I think she clerked at the appellate level, dude. And this lady is telling us that packing the court just means the president, according to the constitutionally prescribed method and in accordance with tradition for literally since, 1869. That was the last time court packing, or actually unpacking, which, Sonny would be unfamiliar with, this totally ahistorical moron would be totally unfamiliar with. But that's literally in the aftermath of the Civil War. You have Andrew Johnson, you have Salmon P. Chase, Chief Justice, the radical Republicans. That's literally a constitutional crisis, not one that the media manufactures every week to try to get their little ratings bump and then, pull off another raid on President Trump's polling. That's a real constitutional crisis. This is a friggin' Civil War, guys, all right? And afterwards, you got the 13th, you got the 14th Amendment, Lincoln dies, you get Johnson in there. You know who Johnson was, like, not exactly down with the whole Reconstruction program that they were trying to push. Like, literally, guys, in order to get the 14th Amendment, the seceded states back into the Union, they had to ratify the 14th Amendment, all right? Literally, the Constitution, like, never mind the character of the country on the ballot, the Constitution was what we were fighting over. Like, who are we? You know what I mean? Like, what's this government going to stand for? What are the fundamental laws that we all must abide by? And they just killed like 200,000 people over that. And, that was what justified unpacking the court, because they didn't want Johnson to get another nomination and the court to strike down legislation that they were trying to move through to reshape the country in Reconstruction after the Civil War. And that scenario is being compared to now. Like, what's the huge legislation on the horizon? What was the scary thing how is the American experiment going to be fundamentally reformed by another 4 years of Donald Trump tweeting? It's totally ludicrous. And the fact that this is what passes for debate, because think about all the idiots who minds are being poisoned by this total filth. The fact that she's conflating packing the court, which is the normal process of nominating and confirming justices when there's an opening. Guys, it's remarkable that the media can run this disinformation campaign, because of course the whole thing's set up so that Bari Weiss looks like a fool, and then they celebrate, and the little post-mortem articles written by the Daily Beast by God knows what sort of like media apparatchik. The whole system is, literally designed to bathe your mind in just this crap and convinces a bunch of low IQ retards who watch The View to begin with that, oh my gosh, something wrong really just happened. And if Joe Biden, he's going to have a bipartisan commission to consider whether or not to pack the court. It's like, guys, this is the most important issue on the balance. Like, Akil Reed Amal writes about the unwritten constitution, blah, blah, blah. That's a real constitutional scholar, Sonny. And a liberal one at that. And he writes about the unwritten constitution. And that's what we're talking about. We're talking about the filibuster, the third branch of government. Like, by packing the court, you literally going to change change the ideology basically that holds sway. And, Justice Scalia was able to sort of bring about a jurisprudential revolution with his textualism, and Elena Kagan's picked up on that. And in fact, Akil Amar also, in terms of people in academia, has really tried to build a liberal argument. You got Jack Bogg, you got a bunch of guys. But anyway, guys, the point being that they're going to take a step to potentially transform the third branch of government to rubber stamp, whatever idiot thing, AOC dreams up the next time she trips on shrooms. And, this is basically the superficial discussion that is allowed to pass for political commentary. And these morons are eating it up. You know what I mean? And so now these brain dead lunatics who've been brainwashed by these tads on TV who apparently go to law school. It's like, dude, talk about collapse of the institutions. Like, if this is it, or just outright deception, which is way worse. It's despicable. And these people are going to go out and vote, and Joe Biden gets to get away with the most fundamental transformation of the judiciary since literally after the Civil War by being like, I don't know, we'll get a bipartisan commission. We'll think about it. Guys, this is serious stuff, man. I know this is The View and all, but like, the fact that this is what's happening in America today, like, people talk about America in decline, like, big time, dude. Big time. Alright, guys, that's about it, though. I'm gonna shut up now.